Tesla has just officially confirmed massive news, and there's a lot more to this than it first appears. Tesla says we are targeting to ship V13 to internal customers by the end of this week, and Tesla's FSD lead says lots of work, but the team's aiming to get feature complete for unsupervised FSD with the V13 series. Herbert says that this means that V13 series will bring unsupervised FSD. Elon also commented that the rate of improvement is awesome, so V13 is definitely going to be a huge update and it's going to be a game changer. However, while this is definitely going to be a game changer, I think there's more than one way to interpret this. He specifically said feature complete for unsupervised FSD, which could be, unsupervised full self driving, or it could be that it will have every single feature that full self driving will need to be unsupervised. For example, it could just mean that it will have every single feature needed for unsupervised full self driving, being able to park in parking lots, being able to be summoned, being able to push the car with the stock into full self driving, and then the car literally drives from where you are to the final destination without any need for takeovers under any circumstances, including emergency vehicles, which right now is still an issue. It doesn't necessarily mean that it would be fully unsupervised. It would just mean that every single feature would be there, and then we just need to make it better. Right now, there are still some features missing. This take of mine also makes a lot more sense when you realize that FSD still cannot reverse. And Omar actually agrees with me, and when Omar disagrees with a bullish take, there's probably something to it that is not exactly correct. He said that V13 will implement all the features required for FSD. Actually achieving driverless levels of reliability on those features is another story. But we know that Tesla is aiming for safer than human driving FSD around the middle of next year, specifically by Q2. Tesla also says that the improvements that it recently implemented in FSD resulted in a 4x improvement in terms of miles between necessary interventions compared to 12.5.4, which is laying the foundation for the V13 series. Tesla is targeting a wide release with V13.3 with most of the above improvements for AI4 vehicles around Thanksgiving, so around the end of this month. I really like these long posts from Tesla because it really gives us a lot of data to work with. I especially like the transparency on the timelines, and the Tesla team has been pretty good with delivering on these timelines. But there's definitely one thing that remains a bit murky, and that is how Tesla exactly defines intervention data. I would really like to see Tesla's data, because when we get our new FSD version, we look at what Tesla said in terms of improvement, and from my personal experience, it doesn't exactly match what Tesla said and what I am seeing, but maybe this is just Vancouver. Still, new versions are significantly better for me, but maybe not multiple times better. We are also seeing more people from Tesla post publicly. Jeremy is the head of Tesla AI labeling programs and content, and sharing our internal plans directly with customers on X fills my soul. Love that we are doing this. Anyway, there are definitely quite a few Tesla stock investors that are extremely excited about V13. Now, one thing about these critical disengagements that Tesla says it has improved on a lot could be things that we normally don't really think of as actual disengagements. For example, when I arrive at my destination, I naturally disengage. But if Tesla could actually fully park properly, there would be no need to disengage. But in my mind, in my brain, it's not registered as an actual disengagement because I just expect that my vehicle is just not capable to do that. I don't expect it to arrive at the parking lot and then just pick a parking spot and just park. And by this, I mean, I wouldn't even need to pick a parking spot right now. You can sort of do this, but you arrive and then you need to sort of wait for the parking spot to appear. And oftentimes it doesn't even appear. I just disengage. But if Tesla is working on things like that, and if Tesla is tracking these things and saying that this is partially what's improving the disengagement rate, yeah, that totally makes sense. Or it could be some other obscure thing that Tesla has improved on that we never pretty much experience. I think the day when Tesla actually starts showing us the progress and showing what kind of disengagements it had before and now how a lot of these are solved by showing us specific examples, that will be the day to really get extremely bullish on FSD, even in the short to medium term. A few years ago, I made a prediction that Tesla is going to make FSD safer than human driving before 2030 ends. And over time, with everything that has been happening with FSD, it does appear that Tesla is going to beat my timeline, which I am very happy with, by the way. In Europe, FSD Supervised will be available after September 2025 if technical requirements are fulfilled. So that's still going to take a little bit of time. There's a new statement from the CEO of Zoosk. They make these autonomous cars. The co-founder says that he thinks Tesla's FSD is not that technology that works. Technically, to some degree, he is right about this very moment. You wouldn't want to put the car in FSD and close your eyes and then hope that nothing bad happens. Eventually, something bad would happen within a few hours, almost guaranteed. But if he's talking about the future, he's totally wrong. The fundamental issue is they don't have technology that works. Our perspective is you really do need significantly more hardware than Tesla is putting in their vehicles to build a robotaxi that is not just as safe, but especially safer than a human. And he doesn't believe that Tesla will launch Robotaxi ride-hailing service in California or anywhere else next year. Zoox, by the way, is owned by Amazon, and they will start rolling out dozens of its purpose-built autonomous vehicles in San Francisco and in Vegas in the coming weeks. But initially, it's just for employees, so their approach is basically the same as Waymo. Elon replied to this guy, if he hadn't gotten bailed out by Amazon, his company would be dead already. Speaking of technology that will not work in the future and will not be able to compete with Tesla's FSD is Zoox. He's really talking about himself, he just doesn't know it yet. Remember about Cortex? I talked about this earlier. This is in Giga Texas for Tesla specifically. Tesla is already using their brand new Cortex supercomputer training cluster in Giga Texas. Tesla FSD V13 is the first fully new version of FSD to use Cortex, which is one reason why it's a big deal. Tesla says 5x training compute scaling with V13 is available. Tesla increases AI training compute by 75% if you noticed in Q3, thanks to 29,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs that they installed in Giga Texas last quarter, and expected to have 50,000 H100 capacity by the end of October, so which is now already. And eventually it will increase to 100,000 H100 equivalent capacity. Looking at Cortex, I do understand why James is saying that it reminds him of that scene in The Matrix when they first show all the humans hooked up. With FSD, I have never truly experienced FSD handling the situation perfectly well when there is an emergency vehicle. I have noticed that with the latest versions, it's better, but it still doesn't fully handle it. But with V13, Tesla will fully identify the sound of emergency vehicle sirens to know to pull over to get out of their way. FSD in the past has struggled with this. And by struggle, I specifically mean it just doesn't pull over exactly how it should. This is Europe. Well, actually, it's Russia. But this is FSD. Someone paid a hacker $5,000 to make FSD work, and it actually works just like you would think it would work in the US. It just goes. And this is actually it's not a short video, and you can see that it handles many different situations and it's just fine. So FSD in Europe is definitely coming and it will work just fine. Maybe not as well as in the US because obviously all the training data is from the US, but I think it will be just almost as good. Tesla and Uber just launched a partnership giving drivers $2,000 to switch to a Tesla. There was some collaboration between Tesla and Uber before, so it's not the first time Tesla is doing something like this, but basically you get $1,000 in Tesla credits upon taking delivery and $1,000 in cash from Uber after completing 100 trips. This is what the new Tesla sales record for first month of the quarter in Norway looks like, and it's one of the daily reporting countries. So when these do better, often the whole region of Europe does significantly better as well. Not always, but often. This also gives us an insight in terms of what's going to be the market share that Tesla will have when BEV adoption rate is close to 100%. In Norway, it's now at 94% for new vehicles, and Tesla has 12.4% of this segment. I like this chart. It shows us how much Tesla has earned from regulatory credits each year. You can see that Tesla sort of reached a plateau around 2020, and now it sort of reached a new breakthrough here because we still have one more quarter left and it's already better than all the previous years. And that's largely because, for example, Ford has a negative margin for EVs specifically of 100%, and they are incentivized. Instead of making EVs, just buy regulatory credits from Tesla. You will lose less money this way. So that's why we are seeing this spike this year, I believe. Out of all of the EVs out there, the Tesla Cybertruck was the 8th best-selling EV overall in California through the first 9 months of this year. And you know it's gonna go up next year. And through the first 9 months of 2024, Tesla sold twice as many Model Ys in California as the combined sales of all other non-Tesla EVs on the top 15 bestseller list. In California in Q3, battery electric vehicle market share hit a record high of now 23.7%. And you know the number is going to go up, and it's going to go up nationally as well in all of the United States of America. California usually leads with that. Wait, what? Ford will stop F-150 Lightning production due to weak demand? Is this like a full stop or just temporary? Okay, seems like it should be a pause for several weeks. Oh no, it's not going to be just several weeks. It's going to be from November to January 6th. This guy is in the news, Mark Newton. He is a technical analyst, so he's into stock astrology. And he says that Tesla could reach $300 before the year ends. Now, supposedly he perfectly predicted the pump to 265, but I remember back in December of 2022, I did a video about him being on TV, and he wasn't bullish at all. And I was very bullish in December of 2022 as Tesla was approaching very close to the bottom that it would go, which is about $100. And he wasn't excited about it. I was. But he also clarified back then that he doesn't like buying stocks when they are on their way down, but he is excited when they start going up. He much rather prefers doing that. And I just look at the long-term fundamentals, and for me, if a stock goes down, it's just a better deal as long as the fundamentals have not changed. And with Tesla, when it comes to FSD, nothing fundamentally has changed. When the stock dropped down to about $100 per share, so I bought. Edmunds just released a Tesla Model 3 performance review. The new Model 3 performance is incredibly quick, but we are just as impressed with what else it offers: a quiet cabin and nimble handling that doesn't come at the expense of ride comfort. Overall, it's a heck of a deal. So this is definitely helping with Tesla sales. That's good. Okay, finally, we are hearing about the Delaware judge and Musk's $56 billion compensation package. We haven't heard about it for a while. It's been quiet. The judge is considering whether a vote by Tesla shareholders reinstated Elon Musk's $56 billion package, which the court had voided, will try to issue a ruling this year. She aims to issue that decision before the end of the year. Now, here's the thing. If she was up for this, meaning she wants to approve it, usually it would be, I would say, to justify it, there's not that much to do. You just say, okay, it's approved. Okay, good, done. But if you want to go against the shareholder's decision, then you need to explain yourself in very high detail, and that takes a long time. And she's taking a long time. So what happens if this gets denied again? Then Tesla will need to decide if they want to appeal to the state Supreme Court. We have heard before from other Delaware judges that they disagree with this judge, Kathleen McCormick. And we have also seen that the Delaware General Assembly is also in favor of Elon Musk. So I would assume that this case, if it goes to the Supreme Court of the state, I assume it would be resolved in a positive manner for Elon Musk and Tesla. And in theory, if it doesn't get resolved in a favorable way to Elon Musk or Tesla in the state Supreme Court, there is a possibility, although I don't think it's high, that it could still end up in the Supreme Court of the United States of America. And Elon being involved in politics certainly improve his chances of that being a higher possibility if it doesn't get resolved favorably to Elon Musk. I don't think it's a big motivation for Elon Musk to be in politics because of this issue. Is it something that has possibly crossed his mind? I think there is a high possibility, but I don't think it's one of his key motivations to go into politics. Back to the Zoox co-founder who said that Tesla doesn't have the technology to make FSD work. It doesn't work until it does. I don't think he knows definitely whether or not it will work, but by the same token, I think the same about Tesla. And here's another thing that is going to make it incredibly difficult for Zoox to ever catch up to Tesla. Basically makes it impossible to ever beat them. Look at this. This is Waymo trained EMMA, an end-to-end multimodal LLM for autonomous driving using just cameras. No LiDAR. So if you are training an LLM based on video data, what's one of the key things to make it the best in the world? Having more data than others. And does Waymo have more data when it comes to video? No. Tesla has hundreds of times of more data, if not thousands. This is still, of course, in the research phase for Waymo, but the bigger point is that it doesn't really make any sense to incorporate LiDAR into a solution like this. So Waymo, the LiDAR king, is heading in the direction which indicates that they are starting to possibly come to a realization that LiDAR, maybe that's not the solution to this problem if they want to stick around in the long term. But the thing is, when it comes to video data and cameras only, they cannot beat Tesla. So their only hope is that LiDAR does work eventually. And when I say it does work eventually, I mean profitably beating Tesla. Just to be clear though, this is not what is driving their cars right now. This is in their research paper, but you wouldn't do the research paper in this level of detail if you didn't think that this is something that you really need to look into. ARK Invest sold a little bit more Tesla stock, which is expected because they are over 10%. By the way, Gary Black has 3.87% in Tesla stock. Ooh, someone had a bad crash in a Tesla, but safe. Someone's teenager daughter was hit by a drunk driver head on. Luckily, everyone's fine. But Lars from Tesla responded with, wow, so glad everyone is safe. Honestly, warms my heart, truly. When I get customer testimonials like this, I print them out and post them around the office and laugh so we remember our motivation. Save lives. This is definitely bullish for Tesla in the long term. This is the Kali Tesla Megapack battery energy storage system that just started operating in Western Australia. It's the largest battery in that part of the country. This battery will help replace coal-fired generators. We will be replicating this sort of project in the future. This is just stage one. The second stage will make this $1 billion stationary battery project one of the largest in the world. It's one thing to build something like this one time, and it's a completely different thing to say, oh, we are building this, we successfully built this, basically it's working, and we will be replicating this many more times because it's working successfully, it makes sense. This is great for Tesla, of course. There's a lot of positive news for SpaceX and specifically Starlink. It's working great, it's getting so much praise from everyone, even the Canadian government. And SpaceX has now completed 200 Starlink missions to orbit. That's a lot. Getting back to Waymo, how much is that company worth? It's owned by Google, basically, but just by itself, how much is it? It is currently valued at more than $45 billion, including its latest round of financing, where Waymo just raised $5.6 billion. And one day, most of this money is just going to evaporate. Check this out. Volkswagen today asked its workers to take a 10% pay cut. The company says it's the only way that Europe's biggest car maker could save jobs and remain competitive as profits plunge to a 3-year low and union bosses threaten strikes. We are not seeing Tesla doing this. Tesla cut people. There were layoffs earlier this year. And often what you see, Tesla does something first, everyone freaks out, and then everyone else follows exactly what Tesla did. Tesla was the first company that makes EVs to cut prices massively, and then everyone else followed, including BYD. By the way, BYD's Q3 net income was 1.63 billion versus Tesla's 2.2 billion, but Elon Musk said on the last earnings call that he doesn't know of a single company, which would include BYD, which makes profits directly from its EVs. BYD sells a lot of plug-in hybrids. But BYD is doing a pretty decent job. They just reached an all-time quarterly net income high. In 2022, Elon Musk predicted that all human code could be replaced by AI in Tesla's self-driving software, and Elon Musk just posted to his timeline that Tesla's FSD is now almost entirely AI. So his prediction has come true. Tesla has just hired 500 additional employees indefinitely at Giga Berlin, so things are looking good over there. They were previously temporary workers, but are now in the permanent workforce. So that's going to be a nice headline that politicians can use in the media locally over there. Tesla's self-serve demo drive program has seen a significant expansion across the UK, Europe, and the Middle East. So this program allows potential Tesla customers to experience a Tesla Model 3 or Model Y without the need for direct interaction with staff, making it a much simpler, easier experience. You don't need to be afraid that someone is going to try to sell you on something. And now I want to go through this longer post from Tesla AI in more detail, see exactly what Tesla is planning to do soon. A full rollout of end-to-end highway driving to all AI for users started for early next week, including enhancements in stop smoothness, less annoying bad weather notifications. Oh, anytime it rains, I get a bad weather notification that FSD performance is degraded, and other safety improvements. Improved V12.5 models for AI city driving with hardware 3, which is what I have. Ashley Smart Summon will be coming to Europe, China, and other regions in the world. V13 is a package of following major technology upgrades: 36 Hz full resolution AI 4 video inputs, native AI 4 inputs, and neural network architectures, 3x model size scaling, 3x model context length scaling, 4.2x data scaling, 5x training compute scaling enabled by the Cortex, much improved reward predictions for collision avoidance following traffic controls navigation, efficient representation of maps and navigation input. Sometimes these are slightly off. Audio inputs for better handling of emergency vehicles, redesigned controller for smoother, more accurate tracking, integrated unpark, reverse, and park capabilities. Right now, it's all technically the vehicle can park by itself, but I just feel it's just so much faster for me to do it, because if I see a parking spot, I can't always click on it because it just doesn't appear. So it's just not something I ever practically use. But FSD, I find myself liking driving on FSD better than without FSD. But I never had a desire to use the self-parking feature because I would think it would make my life easier. Never, not one so far. But that's largely because the feature just doesn't appear on the screen on parking spots that I want to park in. And I like this one. Support for destination options, including pulling over, parking in a spot, driveway, or garage. Parking in the garage is going to be a big deal for many. Oh, and this is really good too. Improved camera cleaning and handling of camera occlusions. Sometimes when I use the backup camera, if it's raining, I can't see much through that camera because water is all over that camera. Tesla really needs to do something about that. But it's not all cameras. It's mostly just the backup camera that I have a problem with. The other two cameras that help you park, these, I have never seen any water on these two cameras. So when I'm parking backwards, I often pay a little bit more attention to these two than to the big backup camera because it's raining and there's a lot of water on the backup camera. So Tesla has already integrated some of these improvements, and that's how we are seeing a 4x increase in miles between necessary interventions compared to V12.5.4. I'm really looking forward to V13. That seems to be, it is going to be a huge improvement in capabilities and features and interventions. As you know, I am a long-term Tesla stock investor, and I'm planning to stay in Tesla for 10 years at least. But I think even in the next 5 years, the possibility of huge gains is very, 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 very high with how much progress FSD is making. But I need to say this. In 2019, when I became a Tesla stock investor in early 2019, I thought I put my money in, and I was planning that for me to see significant returns, I might need to wait as many as 10 years. And I was expecting that it's not going to go up from here. And I was right. When I bought it in early 2019, the stock dropped about 50%. My timing on that purchase was not good. Looking back now, well, even though the stock dropped about 50% after I bought, I don't think that my timing was too bad. So when people are looking at Tesla stock and say, oh, well, the stock is a bit higher now, should I buy? Well, there's a good chance it's going to drop from here. But I believe there's a much, 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 much better chance in the long term, give it 5 to 10 years, that the stock is going to explode again. And if you miss that opportunity to get in, you're going to be mad at yourself. So I remain all in Tesla stock with my stock portfolio. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you in the next video, probably on Monday. Thank you so much.